Cool. Welcome back to the Nurturers Pod, everyone. We got a special guest with us this week. We got Zheng, the sales rapper. I don't think you need much of an introduction besides that, man. How's it going?
It's going amazing, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to have you on the pod and just like dive into your story, man. Like honestly, as I was like doing a little bit of research before, I think it's super interesting. Obviously, the correlation with sales, but how you've been able to kind of turn this rapping into an actual career for you. I think it's incredible. So, how's your day treating you so far?
Solid, man. Solid. Got up, did some ABM campaigns for a client. So, imagine, video selling was huge these past couple of years. Imagine you're getting that, but in a music video format with prospect's face on the video, with some subtitles, some effects, and with the idea of let's make content that will go viral in your prospect Slack channels instead of going or at the organic level.
Right. No, 100%. So I guess just to kick things off, man, like what kind of sparked the idea? Obviously, I know that you were always involved with music, like growing up and stuff.
Mhm.
But when did you really see the potential to turn this into an actual business?
Great question. It was a complete accident. So my background, I've been doing music and creating content for about 10 years before any of this sales, or actually before sales. And the story goes, when I was in college, my junior year of college, I had an internship going into the summer to do, cold calling and marketing for this small startup. And the day before I was scheduled to start, my first day, I get an email from the founder. Hey, we just found your SoundCloud. We didn't like some of the stuff that we saw, so we're gonna have to rescind your internship offer. And at that point, music wasn't working out for me financially. I wasn't gonna be able to create a career off of it, and I was about to graduate within a year. So I'm like, okay, let's kick this shit into gear. I really need a pivot so I could financially sustain myself. So I quit music going into my senior year of college. Went ham trying to get that investment banking management consulting job that everyone tries to go for. Uh,
Hmm.
didn't, interviewed, didn't get an offer. And then, saved by the bell at the last second, I got one offer graduating school, which was to go do, boiler room, local ad sales for Yelp. And that was the start of my sales career. So for those 3 years after graduation, I was doing no music, didn't release anything. I'd scrubbed all of my catalog from the internet. And the only time I was rapping was freestyling with my coworkers and going to these hip hop freestyle ciphers that they're having in Lower Manhattan at the time. And
Okay.
just throughout that time, sales was awesome for me. I was in a fortunate position where I speak Mandarin Chinese, read and write. So I became a sales translator quickly, and that allowed me to have outsized results at the start of it. But one thing that was always missing, despite all of the recognition and attainment and all that, was the love for the music and creativity aspect. So when COVID came, I had started a new job after Yelp, and you know, 3 days into my role, New York went into lockdown. 4 months later, my whole hiring class was gone. So at that point, I went on to LinkedIn, went on to all these job sites, and started just blasting out resumes. Right? But one thing I noticed with LinkedIn in particular was that people were posting content. And I'm like, shoot, this is something that I'm used to, that I've seen for a decade on YouTube and all these other platforms, being a content creator. I'm like, okay, I have some overlapping skills. And at the start, it wasn't even, let me try and build a business out of this. It was very much, let me make content, build a brand, get some type of traction so I can get in front of hiring managers and stand out when I'm submitting job applications. And through that process, I made some funny little jingles in songs promoting myself that ended up going viral on LinkedIn. And through that, I started getting inbound offers from marketers saying, we're interested in your skill set, what you have going on. Can we pay you to create content for us? And then from there, it just very organically turned into an agency style business.
That's amazing, man. That's so crazy. I think COVID, at least talking to a lot of different people, like it just completely had like a 180 effect on their career, whether they were going one direction or another. Like it created opportunities for people and also closed the door for a lot of opportunities, which forced them to go and create something for themselves. And so, no, that's super interesting. The fact that you got there, got them in hand, you're ready to go, and then boom. See you later. Nothing. Like that had to be devastating in the moment. Tell me a little bit more about that.
In terms of like when COVID hit.
Yeah, just like when COVID hit and then getting there to the office and saying, "Hey, you know what? Like this actually isn't going to work out." Yeah, just like
For
how
sure,
that.
man. Yeah, for sure. So, it's interesting. I think I had about the best start to a sales career as you can get. And what I mean by that was going into, Yelp is a well known as a like a churn and burn factory, right? A lot of reps. And I have nothing but good things to say about Yelp. I think it's done a lot for me and it's provided an amazing foundation for my career. But there is that because it is a high volume transactional sales environment, a lot of people there, or there's a perception like, hey, it's not big boy sales. Try and get to that next enterprise level, try to sell more legit SaaS, etc. Right? But for me, what was interesting is Yelp was set up. So I was on their local ads team, which was the promoted listings on the search results selling to SMBs, mainly local businesses, right? But because I spoke Chinese, and Yelp doesn't sponsor H-1B, foreign nationals for their non-technical roles. So I came in, I was the best Mandarin speaker that in their entire sales org in the on the East Coast, right? So very, very quickly, I went through my first 4 to 6 months where I'm a rook on the phones. I didn't know how to do sales. I didn't know the value of the help mentality and how to really deliver value. So I struggled at first. That had me cold calling into rural Vermont. Not sure what's going on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But quickly that became, hey, Ding, here are 100 reps on this floor right now, and all of them have 5 to 10 Chinese speaking local businesses that the outbound people can't break through into. So I quickly pivoted to starting spending 60 to 90% of my day speaking Mandarin at work. And then because I'm the only person in company history, or one of the very few people in company history that could have a native tongue conversation with these folks and understand and also explain the full context of what was going on, it led to a lot of outside success. So I was a new grad in New York, for my first 3 years, speaking Mandarin and seeing a lot of success, working very long hours and working really hard, but also, it was easier for me, right? I had access to warm opportunities, all of the best accounts, and even while splitting every single deal that I closed commission wise and points wise, I was still making President's Club my first year in sales. So about as good of an intro, and I was riding high. My ego was, blowing up, making what I was making, as a 21, 22-year-old in the big city.
Yeah.
And then, so I was feeling myself, and then I joined a new company. I'm like, okay, I had know all there is to know about sales, right? Or about something at that point. So Yelp also promoted me from, an advertising sales rep to a SaaS sales rep. Internal startup, helped launch a new product, domestically. So I was really feeling myself. And then what COVID did was it humbled the fuck out of me, right? Bam, you have this unfamiliar situation. Also, I'm Asian, right? COVID, I don't know if you remember. There's a viral video of me on Instagram where I went onto the subway to go to work in the morning, and I sat down, and about 5 people in close proximity all got up, walked to the other side of the train. So I have this little selfie video of me showing how all the seats were clear around me and then pointing down the rest of the subway car, and everyone's gathered at the other end.
No way.
So
I'm gonna have to go
interesting
find this
times.
video. I didn't see that.
It's funny, man.
That's
Interesting
insane.
times there, but what that experience taught me was, no matter what you've done in the past, life can find a way to kick you in the ass. So never feel yourself too hard. Always stay humble.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I feel like there's only like I guess levels to different situations in life, right? Like yeah, you can be on top, and then all of a sudden things can change, and you're starting right back at level one. So no, that's super important to stay humble, even if you are having a ton of success, and just being able to kind of adapt to those new situations that are given to you. Well, cool, man. No, I appreciate you diving into that. I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into your music history, your upbringing, and how that was like. Was it something like your parents, were they, how old were you when you first started? Was it something your parents got you into? Just tell me a little bit more about your upbringing that way.
Certainly, I've always grown up in a household that were fans of music. The songs were always playing, and my parents had a fairly eclectic taste in music. As immigrants into the West, when they were in China, so my parents were both born in 1966. So as they were growing up, the popular Western music in China was the golden oldies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s was the soundtrack that made it over, right? Because we didn't have the internet back then. I say we. They didn't have the internet back then, and it was
Yeah.
really just CDs and cassette. They didn't have CDs back then, right? Little cassette tapes. So the curation and distribution of music and discovery was a lot different back then. But I grew up listening to Chinese music, Asian music, stuff in the West, and a lot of old music. And what was interesting about that was, it gave me this very narrow understanding of what music could sound like. And then when I got exposed to rap and hip hop, I'm like, oh shit, this is different. I've been
Yeah.
feeling this. And I distinctly remember the first rapper that I guess I really got into was, Eminem, because he was the most popular rapper at the time. Right.
Hmm.
So I actually remember was on a family vacation in China, and then one of my dad's friends, his son, like 10, 20 years older than me, right? I was like a little kid, but family friends all together, and he was showing me music. He had 50 Cent and Eminem, and they're cursing in their lyrics. And I remember I got in trouble for listening to that music with my dad's friend's son. Shout out
Yeah.
to Eddie, man, showing me some In the Club by 50 Cent. And what happens when you're a kid and you get that directive, hey, this is off limits, right? Here's the forbidden section of music, is you start gravitating towards that. So that's when I really
Absolutely.
fell into hip hop. And we grew up in an interesting time, right? That was when the internet was really taking off as a channel of music distribution. Uh, and I remember being really inspired by Lil Wayne at the time, because he was coming off of his album runs with the Carter 2, Carter 3. This was around '07. Lollipop was the song in every single middle school dance. And
Yes.
Soulja Boy had just broke through on the internet, right? We were all cranking that.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
and I remember I would go on datpiff.com. If you're a real hip hop head, you know about datpiff.com. And all these rappers, they had stopped going through the major labels with the CDs and album releases, and now they were just putting out their own mixtapes, right? So it showed me the democratized access to the tools of production from a music level, and the technology was just right to where I got in the game super early. I remember it was like 2007, 2008. I recorded my first song on I think it was like Turtle Beach gaming headphones, right? So you hop
Okay.
over from
Yeah.
COD,
Yeah.
now you're in Audacity, Adobe Audition, Co-Edit Pro, making some shitty ass beginner tunes on there. I think my first song was a remix to a Millie instrumental by Lil Wayne.
No.
So, so I must have been like 11 or 12 years old when I made my first song, because all the tech was there. The first consumer electronics, prosumer video cameras. Remember the flip camera?
I
I had one
remember.
of those
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time. And then,
Okay.
bam, everyone had an iPod Touch. We were getting iPhones.
Yes.
And then we had the camera built in, and you didn't need the whole production stuff anymore, because then they made iMovie on the iPad, and we were doing little videos on that. So I've been creating on YouTube for about 10 years before I ever went onto LinkedIn and experienced professional B2B content. So that was quite interesting, as a sign of the times that our generation grew up on, was we didn't think, damn, we need to go to the studio and book time. We didn't need to hire a film crew and production facility and whatnot. It's like, fuck it, let's pull our little device and we can start making content from there.
No, bro, that is insane. I think you definitely nailed it right on the head. Just the time that you grew up in, like the fact that you had that experience before going on LinkedIn and being able to create this content, like this is just what you were doing for fun. Like this was just you. And so no, it makes a ton of sense that you were able to get into that and have a ton of success. So within high school, was this kind of your thing? Like did people know you as a rapper? Like tell me a little bit more about that. How did people know you in high school?
Oh yeah, nah, I was definitely the rap guy and
Yeah.
the content creator, and that's something where nowadays I feel like every kid in high school is trying to be an influencer, trying to be a content creator. You know, everyone's on TikTok making videos. I think Snapchat did a lot for that the younger generation. I feel like Snapchat usage peaks from middle school to like early college. And then
Yeah.
that got us used to the concept of, hey, let's just make a story real quick or go on Instagram, let's put a story up. So everyone's in the mode of thinking about them, about content and putting that online. Where that wasn't really the case, when I was in high school. It was, and I grew up in a small town, Midwest bumblefuck, right? Where kids would go to school with hunting rifles in the back of their trucks, and the administration wouldn't say anything because the admins would go hunting with the kids on the weekends.
Oh,
So people weren't really thinking about that. So I was a guy walking around, with the camera, doing music videos. How all my little buddies meet up. Hey, let's go shoot a music video, and that was really cool. Because I think for me, I got to see the evolution of prosumer equipment. I think a lot of people nowadays think they have this barrier to making content. They're like, I need to be in the perfect situation. I got to get the best mic, the best cameras,
oh yeah.
the production and all that. And that's why I respect folks like you who are just like, bam, we're going to do a podcast. And then now we're here, right? And you're already ahead of 99% of people that ever think about doing content just by clicking the record button.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
There's definitely that bit of friction though, because in your mind you have those thoughts like, no, I got to get all the best equipment. I got to get the studio ready. I got to get like these soundproof walls.
Yeah,
I want to make it like those pro podcasts or whatever. But it's
yeah,
like you'll figure it out as you go. I think that's been the biggest thing since starting this podcast is just like you'll learn. And it's all a learning process. Like I think the only people who are gonna like hate or like give you shit for starting something like this are the people who wish that they would do it themselves. And
yeah.
so it's just a matter of sticking to it and playing that long-term game. But wait, I have a question. With you in high school, so you guys were recording on like, was it like flip phones and stuff that you guys would be recording your videos on?
So we
Like
used the flip camera. So this was when
the flip
720p
cameras,
was,
yeah.
yeah, 720p was a
Okay.
big deal because I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember like that. This was before DSLRs. Now no one even uses DSLRs. Everyone's on mirrorless cameras. Like I'm shooting this on a little mirrorless camera.
Mm.
But back in the day, they had these point and shoot cameras that people are like, oh, this has 8 megapixels. That's crazy, right? And then now the
Yeah.
iPhones have like 50 megapixel cameras. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Technology is just different these
yeah,
days.
so
It's
my
insane.
family was always kind of into that gear, and I was
Mm.
fortunate, in an environment where like they had the resources to buy a lot of that. I remember like family vacations back in like 2001, 2002. They would have the big old school camcorders with like the
Yes.
cassette tapes and whatnot. So I
Yes.
always grew up around that stuff.
Okay.
And I had access to like DSLRs and like decent, point and shoot cameras growing up my whole life. And obviously, not professional equipment, but probably not
Yeah.
something that every kid was playing around with at the time. So
No, that's huge though. That's
so we shot
super
a
fun that
lot
you were
on
exposed to it.
what I would call prosumer equipment. I mean, I even think my camera right now. So I'm shooting this on the Sony ZV-E10, which is it's a mirrorless camera. It's not full frame. It's a APS-C. But I mean, this is like a probably $2,000 setup that I'm filming everything on right now. The mic and the audio obviously adds a lot more to that. So I've always been a gear nerd, which I think has helped me because then that eliminates one side of that excuse. But to answer
Yeah.
your question directly, I had that little flip camera. We are shooting 720p, thinking we were looking crispy as fuck. But
Oh yeah.
actually, in hindsight, nah, I wasn't too.
No, that's awesome though, dude. I think it's super fun. Yeah, you're just out there with your buddies, just messing around, having a good time, and it's what you enjoy doing. So that leads me to my next question. I know I sent you over a couple before the podcast, um, but you thought that, or maybe it was you, it was your family, but you thought you were going to get into law.
Yeah.
Was that more you, your family, friends? Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think that's just generally, what society says, right? Like, and
Okay.
especially, child of immigrants. Yeah, I'm Asian. Like, what is it? It's, you go be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, right? Or and
Mm,
then later you become and then there's investment banker, management consultant, software engineer, right? Those are like the
yeah.
accepted paths. I didn't try hard enough in school to qualify to do any of that shit, and but that's law was the original kind of, I guess, plan A. So I was a big fan of the show Suits. Shout out to Meghan Markle.
Yes.
And so I was like, oh, this is kind of badass. Maybe I'll be a lawyer, right?
Uh,
So in college I chose a history major because one, I'm interested in history, and two, it's what they say is a good segue into law school. You've got to read and write a lot, and obviously I didn't have the GPA to make it to law school, and my sophomore into junior year of college, I interned at a law firm. Shout out to Nelson. Shout out to Lee and Lee in Seattle. They were a boutique law firm specializing in immigration, and they had a lot of Chinese Mandarin speaking clients. So that was the first work style experience where I realized me being bilingual to the extent that I am. And I'm just, there's a lot of bilingual Chinese speaking. I'm like painfully bilingual. I grew up, partly in China as well as the U.S. I was born here, moved there when I was a month old, came back when I was four, spent every summer in China, right? So, at the risk of offending some people, I'm not going to be very wildly descriptive with this. But yeah, I could sound like I'm fresh off the boat if I wanted to. That was an
okay.
amazing experience for me because one, I realized I never want to work in a law firm. This is dry as fuck, and I hate my life. But it also taught me that there is an advantage to being fluent in Chinese in a Western work environment, which really I think if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't have seen the success in sales that I did as a translator.
That's cool. That's unique that you already had that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, had no idea. I think, yeah, those opportunities, like, did you know that you were getting yourself into that before going over to the law firm, that you're going to be doing a lot of different, like, translating?
Yeah, for sure. So,
Okay.
good bit of nepotism. I was friends with the daughter of the managing partner. Uh, so,
That
so,
works out
so,
nice.
so I was like vetted. I'm not just like some random kid.
Yeah.
They knew that I spoke good Chinese. And to be fair, I was the best possible intern they could have gotten at the time.
Mm.
I would like to think I delivered a lot of value just sitting in on client intake meetings, doing discovery, right, which
Yeah, yeah.
helped out later on in translating documents. So they knew that I could read and write, and then I didn't know the extent of how beneficial it would be until I got in the actual job. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm actually, I'm a
Like a huge asset.
19-year-old, right, at this law firm with, they're all these investment immigration, which is like at the time, I think a 250,000, nowadays a 500,000 minimum investment into the U.S.
Wow.
to get an EB-5, immigration in that program, right? So these are very ultra high net worth clients that you want to deliver the utmost service to. So if they're comfortable speaking in Mandarin and your lawyer speaks English, you might want to have a guy that speaks Chinese there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. No, that's cool. That you're able to find that opportunity and yeah, kind of figure out, wait, no, law is not my thing. Like, this is not what I
Yeah.
want to be doing the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Which I think is also so important that you're going out there and trying different things. Because, like,
Yeah.
let's say you never got that internship, like, who knows? You graduate, you go try to find some kind of law gig,
Yeah.
and then you're in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and it's like, wait, no, this isn't what I want to be doing. Like, it could be a lot tougher at that point. Not impossible, but
Yeah.
the fact that you were exposed to that so early into your career, I think that's huge as well. So just go out there and try stuff. That's what I always say. And that's what a
Yeah.
ton of the guests that I've had on as well is like. You just got to go out there, find what your passion is, and you're only going to do that by putting yourself out there. So,
Yeah.
no, I love that, man. Um, I guess kind of going back on your high school, this I thought this was kind of funny advice to yourself. You said you would make more vines. I forgot Vine was the thing back in high school, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Vine was huge, man. I mean, make more Vines, make more YouTube videos at the time. Get into Facebook ads back then.
Mm.
Now I
So
think
just
the
more
ship has sailed.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit later, I
buy
guess,
buy
but
some buy some bitcoins. You
I
know.
know, right? That would have been nice for sure. I'm with you there. Um, Super cool, man. Well, and then just the last thing here before we get into the wrapping, which I'm super excited about. You said that the thing that's probably been able to take you your furthest in your career is just the mentoring and connections that you've built online. First off, how were you able to go out there and build and connect with these people? And how has that shaped and kind of helped you uh, be guided throughout your career?
Yeah, certainly. So I think two parts to that answer. One is how has that been beneficial? I think looking at it from a standpoint of going from being an individual contributor at a company to starting, a freelance business and agency style business, there is a million things that I didn't know, and there's a million things that I don't know to this day. And having access to people who are further along in their journeys than I am, uh, you know, never going to be a bad thing. And the second piece is the referral network, right? I think people always say, ask for referrals, and I think that's true in a sales context, and it's true in a branding and marketing context. Um, I was someone who was never good at cold outbound, even when I was in a full time sales role. Yelp is interesting because when you start, you're a glorified SDR, but they give you an AE role, and you're a full cycle AE, right? But at the start, like you're really cold calling, and your manager gets on your call and they close your deals for you. But you have the option to close, and when you speak Chinese and your manager doesn't speak Chinese, then you really got to figure out closing quick.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
But for me, I never saw a lot of success doing cold outbound. In the reason I was able to generate a lot of revenue at Yelp was internal brand building. Uh, you know, Getting good at internal politics and getting in front of the opportunities, networking with the right teams, the right leadership, and getting access to warm leads. Right. So when I started my business, I knew that my weakness is emailing and cold calling. I'm probably not going to be successful at that. What made me successful at Yelp was getting warm, inbound, interested opportunities. And I knew Yelp had a massive marketing budget, and they were successful in building their brand. So that was the first thing that I did. I'm like, okay, if I'm not a good outbounder, then I need to start building a brand to start getting inbound pipeline. And that aligned with my strengths. I'm good at creating content. I'm not that good on the phones, right? So even though it's ironic, because my most popular song is called "Hitting the Phones," never my thing. Never, I was never elite at that. I mean, I did it. I did a lot of it, and I was competent, right? Because I forced myself to, but it's not naturally something that I'm good at or enjoy doing.
Well, if you do something so many times, you just, whether you like it or not, you're gonna build
Yeah,
that skill. So,
exactly.
anyways, continue.
Yeah. So that was the onus of getting a brand and using that to network, using that to create potential partnerships with folks that I either work with directly, they're paying me, or they know people that are paying me. And one strategy that I use that I don't see anyone really talking about is this concept called influencer Pokemon. I invented the term because you got to
Okay.
catch them all, right? And when you play Pokemon and you're trying to catch, throw on these nostalgia goggles. But when you're playing Pokemon, if you meet a legendary, right, you can't just spam Pokeballs at it and expect to get the catch. You got to whittle down the HP, maybe inflict them with a status condition, and then you got to use a powered up ball to catch them. So what does that mean from a brand and content influencer standpoint? Is you can't just go up cold to someone and like, hey, be my friend and promote my stuff and engage with me. It never works like that, right? So you got to over time, over a course of a battle on multiple turns, you got to engage with them, show them value, send them little memes, don't make the ask, and then get their HP down to red, and then leave a bunch of comments, right? Throw a bunch of status moves at them, what have you. Put them to and then when you're ready, when you've put in the work, then you don't use the Pokeball, you use the Master Ball, right? And that's when you have a good offer or a good relevant type of message that you hit them with, and you delay the ask as long as possible, and then you just do that over the course of your journey to the it's been a while since I played Pokemon. Now you've collected them all, and Professor Oak gives you a golden Pokédex, and you're happy. Right? Influencer Pokemon.
Were you big on Pokemon Go?
Yes, man. So that 2016, Dude. That was when I had my internship in Seattle. So I was in a new city, like just going through downtown, like. But man, that was a good year. I feel like everybody was happy. In outside that summer because of Pokemon Go, people I think in general were like very trusting that year, and now everyone's cynical and mad. Yeah.
For real. No. Got a point there. No, that's like probably the furthest that I've ever gotten into Pokemon was during Pokemon Go. So I was just like, that's super funny. Well, I appreciate you. I don't think me personally I can wait any longer. I'm excited to hear the rap.
Let's go.
Do you want me to give you the words, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah. So let's see. There's no chat. Yeah, there is a chat on Riverside. So throw me the 5 words in the Riverside chat.